Hey guys, welcome to another day at ATQ. Today I'm going to talk about the 2010 and 2012 ATQ Genesis Coupe taillight gaskets. So here we have multiple gaskets that we've made for prototyping, testing, and whatnot to ensure that the trunks of the Genesis Coupe don't flood. So here you have an OEM Genesis Coupe gasket. We've noticed now that these are actually one-time use, which is why a lot of these cars have leaking in the trunks after the taillights are removed and reinstalled, or they just wear out. So if you notice with this gasket, the gasket has glue and a seal that runs across here. You can see how it's kind of caved in. The reason why they put glue here, or tape, or whatever they did here, is so that it doesn't leak once it crushes. And then you look at the ATQ gasket, and you see that this is a solid piece of custom polyurethane that we had custom made for this project. Then we have the OEM gasket. This is a brand new one that we use for fitment and testing and make sure that everything works out right. And you can kind of see the tape here that they use. So the reason the tape is here is that once this gasket crushes, it deforms, and it deforms permanently. So they use the glue to keep the gasket in place so the trunks don't leak. And unfortunately, it doesn't last too long, and it causes leaking and flooding in the trunk, where you get water in your spare tire well or in the back seats of your Genesis Coupe. So here we have the factory 2010-2012 Genesis Coupe, and we've already installed one of these ATQ taillight gaskets. We've tested it earlier today to verify water leaking and water getting into the trunk and all that, and it actually worked really, really well. I'm really impressed with it. The only thing that we're playing with right now is material consistency. You can see this is pretty floppy, so we went with a little bit softer material so that we have more crush factor like the factory gasket. So if you notice here, you have this tiny little gap on this trim piece on the taillight gasket. So even when you install a brand new OEM gasket, this gap will always be here. And now we're working on sizing of the gaskets to eliminate the gap. Even though it doesn't matter, we're all about OEM fitment and cosmetics. Our gaskets are a lot firmer, a lot more durable, and don't have the flex that the foam gaskets have, so they tend to stick out a little bit more. So even when you push this in here, you can see that there's a gap right down here where the water flows down around the gasket. So this will always be there. And eventually we're gonna pan over to the other side. We're gonna show you guys the other taillight. We're gonna take it apart and then show you the OEM gasket installation, and then show you the installation of our ATQ gasket and show you the difference in the gap. So the way to take these taillights out is we're gonna take this trim piece here, we're gonna pull it back and wiggle it off. And you're gonna take an 8mm socket on the BK1. You're gonna obviously put it into reverse to take everything off. And we're gonna unscrew, I went the wrong way, but we're gonna unscrew all 4 of the 8mm nuts on this taillight. And once they're out, I'm gonna get back to you and show you the difference between the factory gasket and the ATQ gaskets. All right, so now you can see the factory taillight. This is the passenger side of the 2010 and 2012 Coupe. And I'm gonna pull this factory gasket off. So I just pulled it out of the car. You can see that I'm kind of messing with the glue here that's holding it together. You can see that it's all damaged and everything else. So this one came off a lot easier than the other side, which is nice. The other one was kind of a dick. So pull this gasket off, and if you look at the other side, you can see that it's worn in. So you can see where the glue was, and you can see the indentations from the taillight when it was mounted to the car. So that's that. Here you have a factory brand new BK1 Genesis Coupe taillight gasket. So I am gonna put this on once I figure out the direction. So it's gonna go like this. I've already installed this one on the other side for fitment, so it is kind of worn out already. So the wear that you see here and here happens as soon as you install it. So it's kind of aggravating that, you know, it stretches that much, which is why I'm saying these are one-time use gaskets. Once you take them off, they leak, because once they're crushed, that's it, they're done. They harden all along the edges, and this is why they have tape. So we're gonna take this light, we're gonna install it on the car and show you guys what it looks like with the gap. And then we're gonna do the ATQ gasket to show you the comparison. So I'm gonna take this tail light and I'm gonna push it in. And now camera zooms in here. This is where we're gonna have this gap right up here. So this might worry you when you first put it in the taillight gasket. This is actually completely normal. When the gaskets are new, they're thick, or well, thicker. And until they wear in, at least the factory ones, it'll leave this gap. We're gonna try to eliminate this tomorrow. We have a little bit of thinner gasket, so have this line up flush. It's purely for cosmetics. The taillight seals perfectly, but we're all about OEM fitment and aesthetics and everything else. So we're gonna make the slight adjustment, which won't affect anything to do with sealing, but it will look nicer and make everyone feel more comfortable when installing this product. All right, so we have the factory taillight, and here we have the ATQ gasket to show you guys the fitment. So we're gonna slide the gasket over all the proper slots. And as you can see, it fits the exact same way as factory. So here's the ATQ taillight gasket, and now we're gonna mount it to the car. I'm gonna take it, just gonna slide it in here, slide it in the hole. I know a lot of you guys like that. So there we go. And now I push this back in. We're gonna zoom back in here. You can see the gap up top here. It's roughly the same as what the factory gasket was. Once we tighten this down, the gap will dissipate and it'll be very, very small. And again, tomorrow we're gonna have a thinner gasket just so we can get rid of this gap. Again, it's irrelevant, it doesn't matter. This is just a trim piece on the taillight, and the gaskets will still seal up properly. All right, so we have the OEM taillight gasket. It's made out of foam and the one-time use, like I said earlier. And now my helper here, who actually owns this 2010 and 12 Genesis Coupe, he's gonna help me pull on this gasket. We're gonna check the durability of this gasket versus the ATQ gasket. Ready? Let's go. So that really took no effort, and we broke this gasket. This is now garbage, and now we're gonna do the ATQ. So I'm gonna grab one of the ATQ gaskets. We have a couple samples here for the different consistencies. They're all the same in terms of tension and tear strength. And now we're gonna pull this and see what the difference is. So, see what I mean? We can't even break this. So we stretched. My buddy Vlad here, tore his muscles trying to pull this apart. So obviously it holds up pretty well. And this is the difference between a 5-cent OEM foam gasket versus a custom polyurethane ATQ gasket that's not going to tear. This is not going to wear down. It's not going to have wear marks in it when you remove it. And unlike the OEM one, which is one-time use, you can take your taillights out, modify them, do whatever you like, and put these gaskets back on as many times as you like, and you're never gonna have those water issues you have with your OEM gasket. All right, guys, so I'm putting on these taillights on the passenger side of this Gen Coupe, and I'm tightening up the nuts on the studs to install these gaskets. So a lot of the mistakes people make is when they're torquing on their taillights, they over torque them, causing the studs that are mounted to the taillights to pop free, and then the taillights don't seal properly. So I'm gonna continue tightening this one. And see how I got it tight? And I'm just snugging it like gently by hand so it doesn't pop free. That's all you have to do. Once you have your seal on there, you're fine. So I've got 3 of the nuts on. I'm doing the 4th one right now. And then I'll get our video here to show you guys the gap. So if you look here at the top, we saw this gap. So this is actually flush initially. And when you put the gasket on, whether we use the OEM or the aftermarket, you're gonna have a gap. And this will slowly shrink in as time goes on. So if you see this on your taillights, don't worry about it, because the water, when it comes in here, is just gonna flow around the outside of the taillights and go down underneath the bumper. And this is actually an irrelevant piece. It's just, again, cosmetics. All right, now we have these taillight gaskets installed. Vlad's gonna take these gaskets and take them for 24 hours. He's gonna test them out, he's gonna go for a car wash and see if he has any more leaking than he did before. We're pretty confident he's not gonna have an issue since we've already tested this with water. So we'll be in touch with you guys tomorrow. Look for the live video going up on all of our ATQ channels, YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook.